Hey, what's up, folks? BQ here. TW, this is the Cool Factor podcast brought to you by the Impact Lounge. I gotta say, it's number one place to be for the Impact Wrestling fan. We got a few topics to talk about today. Hopefully, we keep this to be a shorter show than usual. I've said that in the past, and it still goes normal.
You know me when I start talking, baby.
Yeah, we just keep going and going. So, let's see. We're not going to talk much about the episode of Impact this week. We got some, other stuff we want to chat about. TW has some topics on his head, on his mind, and then we're gonna get into it. So, let's jump right into this like we always do, man.
All right, man. So let's do it. So we're gonna get right into the good stuff. The biggest thing going on in Impact right now, unless you've been living under a rock, is the build to Rebellion on April 24th. Rich Swann versus Kenny Omega in a title versus title match. And this week, the build to that really picked up. And the main way that they did that, Rich Swann came out in the ring and he cut a promo, an impassioned promo, telling Kenny Omega how he needed to get this win back. And then Don Callis came out and he cut a great promo on Rich Swann just to put that doubt in Rich Swann's mind. He reminded Rich Swann that he took the one-winged angel, and he got pinned at Hard to Kill by Kenny Omega in the middle of the ring. So it's clear they're painting Rich Swann as the sympathetic underdog babyface in this situation. Kenny Omega's a heel, and everybody thinks Kenny Omega's going to win. I don't think anybody who's been watching Impact or AEW or has a pulse or is not related to Rich Swann think that Kenny Omega is not winning the Impact World title. So BQ, my brother, here's the question, and we are going to set it off with: do you think there's any way that Rich Swann leaves Rebellion with the Impact World Championship?
Well, I'm going to make this point first, and you said it. I don't know if you said the sympathetic babyface or the underdog. I don't remember exactly what you said.
I might have said both.
Okay,
I use a lot of words.
That's probably why. So this is the way that they should have presented Tessa Blanchard. I'm not trying to get too far off topic here, but they're doing a really good job of painting him as the underdog so far, with him taking that loss. It was very similar with Tessa. She took the loss with Sammy, and then Tessa went on a roll, and that roll never stopped, and she lost that sympathetic babyface, and that's for me why a lot of the run didn't have the impact that maybe they expected it would, because a lot of people, including myself, started getting just tired of her winning all the time, and it stopped being believable. I don't think they're going to go that route with Rich Swann. They're not going to Rich Swann's just going to start having these 5-star matches all the way up to Rebellion, and then they're going to paint this as this big 5-star classic. I do think this is going to be up there match of the year. I tweeted, what's Meltzer going to do?
Right.
He's going to have to give props to Impact and an Impact pay-per-view, an Impact match, and an Impact ring.
Right.
Because Kenny Omega's in it. So, you know what I mean? But
right.
Really, to answer the question, I'm sticking by my prediction, and I will stick by it all the way through, that Rich Swann's going to win. And I understand that's unlikely, and I understand that that's the underdog story. But where else are you going with this? I mean, you've got the tag. We're going to get into this a little later, I believe. We got the tag team champions who are not even part of the company. If Kenny Omega leaves with the title, which I fully don't expect FinJuice to win at the pay-per-view, I put anything on that. But with that being said, we can't start painting this picture that other people are just coming in and winning the titles. If FinJuice never won those belts, I think it'd be a little bit more up in the air. But I was telling you before the show, my heart hurt when Rich Swann took that clean pin. There's very few times that I take that I'm so emotionally invested in a guy or a match.
You got invested. But isn't that the whole point, right?
Yes.
You want to be invested. You want them to get you invested, and that got you invested.
Yeah. And I was. And when he lost, it hurt. I was like, oh my God. I hated seeing that. I can't see this scenario where he just goes on and just loses again. Maybe there's, the story of the match is that, he almost gets it. You know what I mean? It kind of similar to the Gauntlet when he was through that, where he just so close. You know, maybe it gets there where it's one of those things where he looks great in a loss. Who knows? But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Kenny like will win. I think you know, if they just wanted to have a good wrestling match, Moose would be here. But
Mm-hmm.
you can't tell the story with Moose that they're doing with Rich Swann in this case.
Right.
So uh, I think he's more likely to beat Moose than Rich Swann, honestly. Well, can Moose beat him down the line? Say he does beat Rich Swann, maybe Moose beats. We've talked about that before, but with the story that they're telling, I think there's a possibility that he wins. I'm going to stick by that prediction personally. Um, so yes, do I think there's a chance? I definitely do.
Okay, all right. So I'm the opposite, man. And listen, this
Okay.
is the beautiful thing about pro wrestling. This is I always say that pro wrestling is, has, was, and always will be at its best when you can draw the line between what's scripted and what's not. And what that really means is when you can create doubt, right? When you can create doubt for the fan, for the educated fan, for the grown-up fan, for the person who's seen years and years and years of wrestling and knows what a script looks like, if you can make them question, but I'm not quite sure, you know what I mean? Take them on the ride of the story. That's what it's all about. And anytime you can do that, wrestling is doing the right thing. So already I want to give Impact Wrestling a hand because they're doing that. They're doing that. But I always say your first impression is usually correct. And my first impression, and I believe pretty much everyone else's first impression, is that this is Kenny Omega's story. This is Kenny Omega's story, and Impact Wrestling is lucky to be a participant in Kenny Omega's story. And it is what it is. And Rich Swann is going to have a banger of a match with Kenny Omega. Rich Swann is not going to come out of this match looking bad or weak, but Rich Swann is going to eat a pin, and Kenny Omega is going to leave Rebellion with the Impact Wrestling World Championship. Now, I was a little taken aback when Moose lost to Rich Swann at what was the last Sacrifice.
Yeah, they're all one.
But now that I think about it, this actually is a good thing because this adds more strength to Rich Swann. It makes Rich Swann look like a bigger deal. And so when Kenny Omega beats Rich Swann, it makes Kenny Omega look like a bigger deal. And then if Moose comes back and beats Kenny Omega, now that brings some balance to it because it's like, okay, you beat me, but I beat the person that beat you. And then Impact doesn't look so bad in all this. So I think this could be some really good long-term storytelling going on here. But I think, no, regardless of all of that, Kenny Omega is leaving Rebellion with the Impact World Championship. That's just, I can't see it going any other way.
So Swann and Moose to me was my favorite Impact match I've seen in a really long time. I can't even think what number 2 was at this point. I absolutely loved it. So the Don Callis promo, I've gone on here on these podcasts and shit, and Don Callis follows me on Twitter, so I feel bad to say all this, but I have podcast after podcast talked about, dude, this guy is the worst color commentator I've ever heard. You know, I really laid into this dude like on a weekly basis. Could not stand him. Did not like him switching back and forth between heel and babyface during the shows, and just his voice started annoying me, and it's just, dude, I couldn't stand it, man. The jokes about Bret Hart every time Madison Rain, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And I think he really hurt Josh Matthews because when he was flipping and flopping back and forth his characters every show, like Josh didn't know how to adjust to it. Like, you know what I mean? So I was just like, dude, this guy is the worst color commentator I've ever heard. And now he's switched to this role here. And I got to take that back a little because when he commentates on AEW a couple times, like he was great. I'm like, why was he like that on Impact? But I'll flip it here. Now that he's in this role, like I even forgot that I ever complained about this dude. Like he's so good in this role.
He's really good in that
role. Dude. I mean,
I was just liking him. He was on He was on Dynamite. I don't know if you watched Dynamite from this week yet. But he was talking to the Young Bucks backstage, and just the way that he was antagonizing them about their dad getting beat up was just so funny. It was like, oh man, like he's excellent in this role. Like this is the role he was made to play. And here's another thing where I have to give this guy credit. He didn't play his card right away. This is year 3 of the Callis D'Amore regime at Impact Wrestling. And they have taken it slowly, step by step. Listen, as fans, we all wanted to see this growth happen overnight. We wanted them 6 months in to be packing arenas like AEW, okay? But if you take a step back and look at the forest and not the trees, you can see slow incremental growth. One of the first things they did, clean out some of the bloated contracts, people who had one foot out the door, eyes on WWE, feet in the Impact Zone, but eyes on NXT, got rid of all those guys. Step 2, get out of the Impact Zone, get back on the road. Oh man, it doesn't look good. We're playing Sam's Town Casino and it looks really empty. We're getting a good crowd in St. Clair College, but almost everywhere else. Then slowly you see those crowds slowly getting better and better and better and better. Step 3, take some big swings. First ever women's world champion. We've already discussed in depth why that didn't work. Build a whole pay-per-view around the big news of WWE releases. Get Kenny Omega, get Tony Khan to open the forbidden door. You got AEW, Impact, New Japan all working together. And listen, when Don Callis talks about being the, what do you call it, the invisible hand, I believe that's a shoot, brother. I believe that's a shoot. Because if you look at just the way I laid it out, he didn't come out the gate and throw his cards on the table. No, he let it play out. He let Chris Jericho and Omega build their thing in New Japan and let AEW get this thing started. He didn't jump right into being a character on TV when they first took Impact. He let all these things play out. And now at the perfect time, AEW got their first year under their belt and they got to a point where they kind of could use something a little fresh. Oh, we're going to go with Kenny Omega as the champion. I got an idea. What if we gave Kenny Omega a great heel manager? Played it perfect. And now got Impact looped into the conversation, got New Japan looped into the conversation. And this is what I've been telling everybody. And for anybody listening, I was on the Duke Loves Wrestling podcast this week. You can check that out wherever you find podcasts. And I was talking to my man Duke, and I was saying the same thing, that this is not about AEW lifting up Impact. This is about pro wrestling versus WWE.
Yeah.
And this is about everybody being on one team. And it's about fans being able to say, well, you know what? Monday Night Raw is really just a bore every week. Let me watch this show on Tuesday. Oh, is that somebody from New Japan? Is that somebody from AEW? Is that somebody from Impact? Huh. Let me watch this show on Wednesday. Is that somebody from New Japan? Is that somebody from AEW? Is that somebody from Impact? And these shows, they're not like, they're not a constant one thread of a AEW Impact war going on. It's not, we're going to see Rich Swann on Tuesday and on Wednesday going back and forth with Kenny Omega. It's not both. There's constant threads of storylines going on. This is good. This is all good. This is very good. And again, the protagonist, the lead protagonist in this story is Kenny Omega. And Don Callis has been the catalyst for getting all this going. Listen, I'm not behind the scenes, but I just can tell you from what it looks like. And what it looks like to me is that he's the thread that's connecting all of these things. He's the thread that's connecting Tony Khan and Scott D'Amore to New Japan and all these other things. He seems to be like, I'm telling you, I think that invisible hand thing is a shoot, bro. I think that invisible hand thing is a shoot. And and listen to me talking like a wrestler. I'm not
Yeah.
I think there's some level of realness to
Yeah.
when he says that invisible hand thing. I think he really has influence in all these places and is helping all these things happen. Maybe he's not talking to the New Japan people. Maybe he's sending Scott D'Amore with a little message. Okay, maybe he's not talking to Tony Khan. Maybe he's talking to Omega, who's talking to Tony Khan. Okay, like, but I'm telling you, like, I think he has his hand in all this, and he has played this perfectly. Impact is positioned for when they do let fans back in to be in the best spot this company has been since 2013. Stop me when I'm lying.
So no, you're dead right. So basically, the Global Force Wrestling vision has come to fruition. So the real winner in this is Jeff Jarrett. No, but dude, what I was saying this morning, I did an upload on YouTube. This storyline's perfect. Everything I'm always talking about. This match was rushed. This angle was rushed. This and this and this, and they do that more often than not. Like this whole storyline that they're doing is it's perfect. No one knows where it's ultimately going. We think we do. A lot of people think they do. We don't really know,
Right.
And you're right. This invisible hand stuff, man. He's and Paul Heyman's always going to be that like, oh, the advocate. This is the greatest, talking manager, advocate, whatever you want to do. Like, dude, this work he's doing is. I would rather listen to what he is doing ahead of Paul Heyman, because for me, like Paul Heyman, granted, I'm not an expert on that product anymore, but I've always felt like it got to the point he was just saying the same stuff week in and
Right.
week out, and they put the camera on him during Brock's match. If he can't breathe, he
Right.
can't fight, or whatever it is he says.
Yeah.
Or I mean, the substance behind what he's saying, and just
Yeah.
Rich Swann could even respond. I mean, that's
Yeah.
where he's starting to like question himself. You know what I mean? So I think we're definitely gonna see a story where he's got to like psych himself out, and because if you remember before the match with Moose, Eddie Edwards came and had to like pump him up a little bit, get in his head, and Rich like, yeah, you're right. So we're gonna see that a little bit. I think where he's gonna have to talk himself into it, or he's gonna have to to find that support, but.
Yeah, but and listen, the beauty of it all, and I think I got a little off track when I was sitting right and say this. The beauty of it all is they're taking us on the ride, right? Like again, like I said, we think we know. I think I know how this is going to play out, but through the storytelling, they're creating doubt, and
Yeah.
that's the fun of being a wrestling fan. Make me doubt. Make me anticipate what's going to happen because I really don't know. You know. All right, so that is obviously the biggest story coming out of Impact this week. But I got a couple more newsworthy items. Here's the second one we're going to talk about. Now, one of the things that happened on the show this week was FinJuice, the new Impact Tag Champs, announced that they're taking those titles and heading back to New Japan for at least a month, and they'll be back sometime in April. So Impact's going to have no tag titles on the show. How do you feel about this? This cool? Is this not cool? How do you feel about this?
Well, the cool or not cool. So, uh, I would say not cool, but I'm gonna say it's cool because they turned it into a story. Did they need Tommy Dreamer to pull off the story? Yeah, obviously. Who else would you use, right? But he came out and said, "Hey, we don't have titles on the show now." At least they, instead of just looking dumb to where like they didn't have champions on the show, at least they acknowledged it. And it's weird because I didn't expect them to. What's funny is because this tape, this episode has been taped for a while.
Right.
It's just funny when we think the Good Brothers have been showing up on AEW on their live show for weeks with the belts that aren't even theirs. It's just funny to think of it that way. But the tag team division, the whole division in general needs some, just like the knockouts, needs like some adrenaline. They need something. And if it's a story that like, hey, our titles are gone, at least it's something different, and they're legitimately gone too. It's not some made up angle where they're really just hanging out across the street or in the building with the belts, and they're not here tonight. They're really gone, and it ties into what they're doing with Japan. So it's cool in that sense. I could have done with 100% less of Tommy Dreamer being involved. I thought he was supposed to take time off screen.
No, that was the first thing I thought when I saw him. I was like, did you say you were taking time off?
Yeah. And some people are saying, well, I think he said in the ring. I'm like, I don't think so. I'm fairly certain he said off screen.
Yeah.
But he didn't even make it through the set of tapings without being back on, and now he's hosting this pay-per-view. I was really mad when I saw the graph. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding. Because we've had this conversation too where it's like, I don't think hardcore wrestling's popping in 2021. I just
Right.
don't. I don't think anyone cares that's of the demographic you need to reach. But, they disagree. But I'm okay with this, like, Dreamer's going to book it and all that stuff. It's something different, so I can get with it. Has nothing to do with the topic. We're talking about the tag team titles. So, but yeah, to answer it, I'm going to say it's cool because it's made an angle. It's not just, hey, the titles are going to be gone for a month and,
Yeah. So you're saying it's cool. I'm also going to say this is cool. And I'm going to tell you why. I think absence makes the heart grow fonder. I think it's one of those things where give us a chance to appreciate the tag titles and what they mean. Better yet, give us a chance to appreciate the tag teams on the show and what they mean, what they bring to the table. This to me is a great opportunity to highlight the tag teams that are here, show them fighting, show them competing, and raise the question of who deserves a shot to bring those titles back to Impact once FinJuice comes back to the United States. So I think this is actually a good thing. And yeah, so I'm gonna say this is cool. This is cool for me.
Hells yeah.
I think, like, then too, to your point about hardcore justice, I know this wasn't really a topic. I think this can work as a pay-per-view. If you don't see hardcore wrestling, I think anywhere else on your show for a while, then give us a hardcore pay-per-view and it'll be fun because we'll be able to look back and say, man, that was crazy. All the, tables, ladders, chairs, stairs, trash cans, cheese graters, frying pans, and everything on that one night. But if it's every show, then it's whack, it's overdone, it jumps the shark. But there's a big match this week that a lot of people were talking about that had some hardcore elements to it. That's all I'm gonna say because I know you haven't seen it yet. All right. So next, here's our last item on our docket for tonight. One of the big announcements that came out this week was Kylie Ray returning to wrestling. It was announced that she's going to be returning to Warrior Wrestling this summer, where she's the champion and she's going to be defending her title. She's also still under contract to Impact Wrestling. If anybody remembers, when she took her hiatus before Slammiversary, Impact was very gracious. They said they give her all the time she needs. And, obviously, I guess with the idea being that if she wanted to come back, she could. So to that, I asked the question to you, will Impact take her back when and if she's ready? Do you think she wants to come back to Impact? And should Impact want her back?
They should want her back. And I think they'll explore it. But they're going to have to be fairly confident that she's not just going to leave. Because this is twice now that she's done this, which I'm not faulting her. That's not what I'm getting at all. But that's the reality of it. This is twice that this has happened. Can Impact can they bounce back from a third time? We've already said the Knockouts division hasn't been the same without her, from a worker standpoint and from a character standpoint. Having a top babyface, they were using her in the tag team division with Susie. She's been impossible to replace so far. So yes, I think they would love to have her back if she's ready, though. I watched a couple of her cameos. Like, she seems to be doing well. Warrior Wrestling is about 4 hours from me. I was already planning on going to the show. I knew she was the champion. I didn't know what they were going to do with the belt. Trey Miguel's the male's champion, by the way. Oh, nice. And Brian Cage was the champion for like the longest time. And I love their belt. It's pretty cool. Anyway.
He's the champion. Does he actually main event?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is he hurt all the time?
Yeah. Yeah. I watched him wrestle a match hurt. Like he did a tables match with Michael Elgin or something. He was like clearly hurt.
Oh, he was hurt? Shocker.
Yeah.
Did Elgin have to carry him through the entire match?
Yes.
I can't believe you're saying this. If this was anybody else, I believe it, but not him, not Cage, not the Man of Steel.
Brian Cage.
Right.
AEW has been completely healthy for a year, which is crazy. So, yes, they should want her back. Do I think she'll come back? I'm kind of on the fence about it. Do I think she wants to come back? I don't know. I'm obviously not in her head. I'm sure she would like to. I don't know what her education is. I don't know if I don't believe she has a shoot job, because I think she had said in the past that she made wrestling full time a while back. Because if people forget, some of these Impact stars have jobs, and it's not, some choose to. Back when I interviewed Allie, years ago, like, she's like, yeah, I have a job. I don't really need it, but she was, from the small conversation I had with her about it, like, she really wasn't, I want to make wrestling my income. Like, I need a fallback type of thing, and then it got to the point where money was good enough that she said she didn't need it anymore.
Right.
Some of these guys and girls do have jobs. Yeah. And it's something that's obviously not spoken about a whole lot. And we live in this wrestling bubble where this is all that they do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she does anything. I want to say no, though. I want to say she's one of the few that decided to buckle down and do it full time.
Right.
So if that's the case, and she doesn't have much else, many other options, then maybe she has no choice. But Impact has to know that she's going to ride out her contract the way she's supposed to, and that she's taking the steps to get whatever help she needs. I'm sure she has. I just want to make it clear, I'm not putting her down in any way or anything like that, but it's happened multiple times, so you do got to be careful. But this is a good sign that she's doing this. She's honoring the fact that she's the champion in that company, and I don't know who her opponent's going to be yet. I can't wait to see. Right. But yeah, man, they should want her back. They need her back.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so before I begin here, I just want to give a little disclaimer. I am totally in support of Kylie Ray and anyone else putting their mental health first and foremost. That is so much more important than entertaining dumbass wrestling fans like me. Okay, I want anyone to. I think it's serious and it's important that anybody listening to this take care of your mental health first, and screw what anybody else thinks. Okay, that is the most important thing, more important than any job or any loved one you have or anybody else. Your mental health is all you got. It's all you got. Honestly, your health is everything. Okay, so just with the disclaimer of that, everything I'm going to say now is from the position of a wrestling fan. That was me talking as a human. Now this is me talking as a wrestling fan. Okay, / commentator / opinionist.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, Impact should want her back. Of course, Impact should want her back. Listen, you remember, man, I wish you could pull up the tape of the rant that I gave when we were previewing Slammiversary. I was so excited for the Kylie Ray Deonna Purrazzo match. It had all the build of a big fight. Not a big woman's match, but a big match. Kylie Ray was the hottest thing on the independent scene. And Deonna Purrazzo was having a fantastic rise in Impact Wrestling. And they were meeting like, two runaway trains. It was going to be amazing. I was so excited, so looking forward to it. And, it didn't happen. So with that said, of course, they should want her back. They have missed her sorely. Okay. Yeah. Her leaving just so happened to coincide with Taya Valkyrie's stepping out. And so now we went from a division that was going to have Deonna Purrazzo, Jordan Grace, Taya Valkyrie, and Kylie Ray, to a division that has Deonna Purrazzo and Jordan Grace. And that's no diss to anybody else, right? But it's who we've seen that we know can perform in a big match spot like that. Okay, Impact Wrestling sorely misses Kylie Ray or someone like her. Like the Knockouts division is very thin. And I say this with no disrespect to the Knockouts there. There's a lot of very talented people there, but you got to ask yourself, honestly, they've already done Jordan Grace and Deonna Purrazzo 3 times, right? 3 times, I think. It's a great match. They do great matches together, but you gotta have some spice. You gotta have some variety. Like at this rate, they're gonna have to turn Tasha Steelz babyface to go against Deonna Purrazzo because they don't have it. They don't have, and that's again, this is no diss to Kiera Hogan or Havoc or Nevaeh or anybody else, but they just don't have a lot of people that are interesting characters that you really want to see. Tasha Steelz she's a scene stealer. Every time she's on the TV, you remember her. And they don't have a lot of people like that. Deonna Purrazzo, again, same thing, right? Like she has that quality, that arrogant air, and it just, you remember her when she's on the screen. And they don't have a lot of people who have that. So they miss Kylie Ray. And she, her absence has definitely left a void, and they could definitely use her. Now, if she did want to come back, I think it would be tough for them to trust her in a big spot. I'm not gonna lie. I think it'd be one of those things where they can only book her for what she could do during a set of tapings. Right. It'd be one of those things where again, I think it'd be tough. Like I think they could book her in a big match, but they'd have to always have a contingency plan. They'd have to, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's not her fault, right? It's not her fault, but the reality is, as a TV producer, you can't leave these things up to chance. You can't say, I'm gonna send my performer out there and hope they figure it out. No, you got to have a plan. You got to say, this is exactly how I expect this to go because I have this scripted out. This is going to go this way. This is going to go this way at this time within this allotted time. And then we're going to go to commercial break into the next segment, right? Like you can't just let these things go on without a plan. So, I want to see Deonna Purrazzo. I want to see Kylie Ray back. I think Impact wants to see her back. Impact fans want to see her back. The roster could use her because she's awesome. I think it'll be interesting to see, if they get her back, if they try to put her in a limited usage role, or, like I said, if they just try to avoid booking her in any type of big spots because you just don't know, what could potentially happen. But, hoping for the best always. It's not like she's never made a pay-per-view. You know what I mean? Like she's been participated in plenty of pay-per-views. She's made plenty of big shows. And so, you just always got to have a contingency plan. It is what it is. They were so fortunate that they didn't have Su Yung doing anything else at Slammiversary, and she was able to step in and fill that spot. And she also had kind of been doing something with Deonna Purrazzo where that just happened to work out perfectly. So, creative booking. But ultimately, the question is, should she come back? Yes. Should Impact want her back? Yes. Do I want to see her back? Yes. If she were to come back, would it be cool? Yes. Okay. Yeah. And you know what else? Here's one thing that I think is a little bit funny. I would not be shocked. If Tessa Blanchard comes back to Impact.
I wouldn't be shocked either.
She does not appear to be getting any nibbles anywhere else. The Royal Rumble has passed. AEW's had a few pay-per-views. NXT has had class after class after class, and I don't see nobody calling her. I see her still posting workout videos. She appears to be either back from Mexico or, just into a normal flow of life wherever she is. And I don't see her booked on nobody's wrestling card. This could be a situation. There's a need in Impact. She's going to need a job. I wouldn't be shocked, man. I would not be shocked. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not saying it's going to happen next week, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be shocked. Time heals wounds. Heals wounds. And if you come to an agreement where there's some sort of business relationship where you agree that you can both help each other, listen, if Tessa Blanchard steps back into Impact, the stories write themselves. I'll take a Tessa versus Deonna Purrazzo match. That's a pay-per-view match, baby.
Yeah.
That's a pay-per-view match.
Oh, man.
Give me that.
I wouldn't be shocked either. I really wouldn't. To go back on the point a little bit, there was a time where I guess what I should say, it's possible that wrestling just fills a void for her that she can't fill otherwise. There was a time where I almost punched out of this channel, and people know I disappeared for like 6 months out of the blue.
Yeah.
And that was a mental health thing for me. I wouldn't say it was depression or anything like that, but I had a relationship that ended. I was stuck with my 3 kids here by myself, and I couldn't handle it. Like it was so much more than I was able to handle. It was way over my head. Yeah. Eventually I got my shit together, but for several months, dude, I was not okay, and I don't usually put my personal information out like that, but you just never know what's going on behind the scenes. But for me, eventually, what I did with the channel and the podcasting was a void that I wasn't filling otherwise. So, I returned, and I haven't been able to put in the work like I've wanted to, but I have returned. So what's my other point here? I was going to say, with the knockouts,
we're talking about Tessa.
when they what's that?
Oh, Kylie, Tessa and Kylie.
Well, I was going to say with Tessa, yeah, I expected her to be. If they could bring back Alberto Del Rio or El Patron several times, like Austin Aries, like these dudes, like.
But I will say this though. You said if they could bring back Alberto, they could bring back Tessa. I don't get the impression that Alberto was rough with them. I get the feeling that Tessa's the type that a disagreement with her turns nuclear.
Turns what?
You know what I mean? Like as I get the feeling that like, so for example with Alberto, right? Like I feel like they're like, yo, dude, basically you're embarrassing us in the headline. He's like, nah, dude, I won't do it again. I'm cool. They bring him back, right? I think with Tessa, it's a little different. I think Tessa's like, F you, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm willing to bet those conversations did not end amicably. Those conversations weren't like, let's just go our separate ways. You know what I mean? I think it was more like, bleep you. So, definitely. That relationship may be a little tougher to repair, but like we were saying, look, money and time heal wounds.
And it seemed like Daga really enjoyed being a part of the company. Even when the drama was happening, he said he put out a tweet. I miss the Impact Wrestling fans. So who knows? Maybe it's something internally they talk about. Maybe it happens. But I was gonna say at this Sacrifice show, they announced this 6 knockouts or 12 knockout. What I don't know. 12 knockouts tag team match. However, it's whatever the number. Okay. I was like, wow, they actually, I've been calling for a while, bouncing people from one platform to another, just a style of marketing. So they do that. And, you got to get on the website to find out who's in this match. And I was, oh crap, who's in this match? The way he delivered it, I thought it was, there were 6 separate teams. I didn't catch that it was 6 on one side, 6 on the other. I misheard him, but then the match graphic comes out and it's the same chicks that we see week in and week out.
Like, this is pretty much everybody. First of all, when I heard they were having a 12-person match, I was like, they have 12 knockouts?
Right.
I was like, I didn't know they had 12 knockouts.
That's what I thought in my head too. So I took it like, oh, we're going to see new people. And then it was just the same chicks that have just been wrestling nonstop.
Right.
And what I said this morning on my upload is that, I was saying during Sacrifice, I was like, someone's going to show up to challenge Deanna or challenge the Knockouts Tag Team Champions. I was like, they clearly have feuds. They're like blowing off. I was like, someone's just going to rise, because at this point you can't have neither of those champions, the tag team champions of Deanna, neither of them can have an angle with someone on the roster at this point. Like, because no one will care. So I think this time around, I'm calling it, she's going to beat Jazz. Like, again, it's a match probably no one cares about. She's going to beat Jazz. Someone's going to pop up, dude. And I already know, I can tell you for a fact there's supposed to be fresh faces at this set of tapings. I don't know if that means they're knockouts. I don't know if it means they're indie girls, if they're from AEW, if they're from wherever. I don't have a clue. I just know there's going to be some fresh faces. And I feel like Deanna's going to win this match next week, and someone's going to, I'm not saying a run in, that's been done, but the music hits and someone steps out, kind of like Private Party did, something like that. Someone's coming, dude. There's no way they can have this match and the seeds are not laid for whatever's next for her. There's no way. And
It
Britt just finished this angle with Thunder Rosa.
right.
That would be perfect. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. They keep talking about, Deanna's been saying on Twitter, what about the women for this Forbidden Door? So
Right.
the C's are there, dude. Like someone's coming. They have to be. There's,
Hope so.
as I said, you can't do it. If they go at Rebellion, hey, Tasha and Steels are taking on, any two members of the current roster, or
Right.
Deanna's wrestling someone on the roster, no one's going to care. Like at this point, it is boring in that division.
Yeah. They got to do something to breathe some life into it. Totally agree. All right, man. Anything else you hot on this week?
I don't think so. We'll just see. Looking forward to how they play out this Hardcore Justice thing with Tommy Dreamer booking it. I'm going to give it a chance, instead of shitting on Dreamer. Just looking forward to seeing what they continue to do with Swann. I'm looking forward to see if Swann is involved in Dynamite in any way, because at this point that hasn't been the case. I don't even know what the Good Brothers are on there at this point. They're just there wrestling.
I've already seen the show this week, so I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I'm not gonna spoil it for you.
Okay, fair enough. I still got to catch up on that, but there's some good things going on. They're starting several builds and everything early for the pay-per-view, which is nice. I knew they were just going to do the FinJuice versus the Good Brothers again.
Yeah,
I could have put money on it. We were just going to get that again. I hate rematches. I hate title rematches. I always do, and it's always convenient. Like the Good Brothers, you're contractually obligated match, but then when the North had the titles for like a decade and then they lost, they had to earn their way, and then they didn't earn it and they never got their rematch.
Right.
I hate the rematch clause with passion. You notice AEW doesn't do that.
The rematch clause.
Yeah.
Well,
Someone
you know what?
Their
title changes have been so infrequent.
Yeah.
That by the time they get to the end of the title reign, that I think everybody's kind of ready for a title change. And I think that's well done. You get to see, people just kind of, but actually the TNT title, I feel like changed hands rather quickly, or rather short-term runs a few times. Yeah. And I didn't see a rematch on any of those. So you're right. Maybe that's just not a thing with AEW.
Yeah. The only person who shockingly got a rematch was Cody.
Did Moxley. Moxley got a rematch.
Yeah, but
they did it smart. Later. They spaced it out from like one pay-per-view to another. And I think that's the way you can get a lot more life out of anything, right? By space it out, right? Like, so again, we know we're getting Rich Swann and Kenny Omega. Give us weeks to build to it. And everything that happens every week is to build to a match. Baby, that's wrestling. That's wrestling. So when we get these guys in the ring, there's a whole story. There's a whole story that you knew was coming. Like, one thing that WWE does that I think is sometimes, like, the road to WrestleMania has gotten a little too long. And this year they're trying to cut it down by putting like 3 pay-per-views in between there. And that it feels like a little much, but it's tough, right? Because the Royal Rumble is like either mid-January or end of January. And then WrestleMania is either the end of March, beginning of April, or mid-April, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of TV time to fill when you already know the matches. You know what I mean? Like with the biggest WrestleMania match recently was Becky Lynch, right? And like the Becky Lynch against Ronda Rousey, that was the match everybody wanted. But after Becky won the Royal Rumble, again, you just had this gap of like 2.5 months of TV that you had to fill to try to go to this match.
Ooh. Sorry,
that's my son, young TW talking about Junior. No, he's a natural. He'll be on.
There we go.
But yeah, you get these long gaps of time that you got to fill, and you just got to find some way to do it, right? You got to find some way. You got to find interesting things that happen week to week, and they have this opportunity, right? And so, like we were talking about with Swann and Omega, right? We got when is Rebellion? April 24th. So that's 6 weeks from now.
About 5
right?
weeks.
It's like 5 weeks. So that's a great amount of time. You can do a lot of stuff on TV, in those weeks to try to build to the show. Omega and Moxley, there's probably like what 2 months between their matches, so that's a good amount of time to build. So I'm actually a fan of doing it that way, and I think if you do it that way, it's okay to set up a rematch because you can keep revisiting the old match and that type of stuff. So yeah, I think that's totally doable, man.
But when you do a rematch and it's like a week later, the next
Right,
episode, like that's what like
they blow it off a lot of times.
yeah, like who the hell cares? You know, TJP's getting his rematch.
Right.
You know, I would say wait to the pay per view, but they're clearly going to do some kind of multi-person match. I mean, there's
Oh my god, you saw them set that up, right? It was like the interview with like 5 people, and I was like, no, don't do it.
You always know that's right.
The way I would do it is right now. I would go out. I would come out and announce. I'd be like, look, you know, just go ahead and do the segment. Be like, you know, Chris Bay, you have a claim. Josh Alexander, you have a claim. TJP, you have a claim. So here's what we're gonna do, right? So you go ahead and make the rematch, make the TJP Ace Austin rematch, make it for the pay-per-view, set it in stone, boom, start selling it. Next thing we're gonna do is have like a you could do like a, you know, what do we got? Like I said, we got 5 weeks. Have a tournament, and the final 2 in the tournament will you know, have a tournament or like an Ultimate X qualifier or something, you know what I mean, where you're having 2 matches, and again, you come out of the pay-per-view knowing who the next contender is. You know what I mean? And do that, and then and don't let whoever wins get their shot on Impact. Get your shot at the next pay-per-view. So we're still building. So rather than seeing Ace Austin versus TJP every week, we see Ace Austin versus somebody, and we see TJP versus somebody. You know what I mean? Like eat week after week after week, and they're still winning and looking great, looking strong, so that by the time we get to the pay-per-view, all I can remember is that both of these guys kicked everybody else's ass. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you do it. I never booked a wrestling show in my life, but I know that's how you do it.
Because that's how we enjoyed it at one point. That's how, when we were growing up, that's just how it was done.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many pay-per-views I remember watching as a kid, or big matches. Say like Bret Hart was taking on Skinner, dude. I didn't know Skinner was a jobber.
Skinner.
You know, yeah, because I just saw him win all the time. I didn't know he was a jobber until he finally faced Bret Hart and got his ass kicked. And then
exactly.
I'm like, oh shit, okay.
Because he wasn't real. You're right. He was a jobber, but you didn't know he was a jobber because he was winning.
Yeah.
And all those wins were strictly purely to set up the loss to Bret Hart. That's all that was for. But that's okay, right? That's okay. Because like you said, to the fan, we thought Skinner was a credible threat because we saw him beat people.
Yeah.
Right. But if you got Robbie E getting his ass kicked every week, why would I ever think he's a threat to win a match?
It's like we said with Triple XL, with Reno Scum, you know, Desi Hit Squad when they were a team. Some of these, you know, Alicia Edwards, when you know, there's a handful on a very small roster that lose every time they get in the ring, and it's you know, it's I don't think you can afford to have jobbers.
Right.
Say jobbers, and I'm sure wrestlers don't appreciate that term, but I'm just saying, coming off, like, you can't afford that in such a small company. But with that being said, it's hard not to have the same people not fighting or I don't know if I'm wording that correctly, not have the same people fighting each other all the time because it's a smaller roster. But as you said, the way to get creative.
How hard is it to, you know, again, how hard is it to book 6 indie acts, right? That are going to come in, and we're going to book you 6 acts, and you guys are going to come in here. You guys are here to do jobs. You know what I mean? Like book 6 indie acts for a set of tapings, have them come in, and these guys are here so that we can see Triple XL get some wins. These guys are here so that we can see Kimberly get some wins. We can get to know what Susan's move set is because we see her winning some matches.
Yeah.
So the next time you put her in the ring with Jordan Grace and she raises her hand, we know what to expect, right? So that counter means something, right? Like, this is not rocket science. This is not rocket science, right? It's conditioning your audience so that when you do something, when you do what you want to do, it actually means something.
There's people on the roster where you couldn't you could ask me what's their finish, I couldn't tell you.
Right.
You know, I don't know what Triple XL's finish is. Their tag team finish, I don't have a clue. I wouldn't know Reno Scums if they didn't get a little bit of a push the first time they were in the company.
Yeah.
So I know it. I know Alicia Edwards is the flatliner. She does hit it during matches. It's just they kick out of it. That is her actual finish. Yeah, dude. I feel the same way. I don't see why we just don't get some indie wrestlers to come. Like, dude, Dynamite pulls it off. Usually they do it on Dark, but they pull it off on the show. Like, or they have feuds where their roster is obviously a lot bigger, where two guys in completely separate feuds are fighting each other.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, these two tag teams have to fight each other every week, and you versus me, now me versus you. Yeah.
And actually, I want to give Impact some credit because they actually have been doing that to an extent. Who's that guy that just got signed by NXT? He was doing X Division matches. I can't remember his name. Was it
Blake Christian?
Yes, him. Right. That's a great example. Right. Like, bring some people in. So they actually have been doing that. But I think it should be more to the point where when I see Triple XL, I shouldn't just know they're going to lose.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you said, we should know what their act is. Let's know what their move set is. Not these guys, they have an entrance, but we know they're going to lose, right? Like, it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, no, totally agreed. So we'll see. I just feel like there's probably independent wrestlers out there that you could even sign to the company, and if they're just working per day, like,
right.
We don't know the financials, you know what I mean? But I have a hard time just like understanding you can make the roster bigger with some per appearance guys. I don't
totally.
It's like hard to.
All those OVW guys, some of those guys who were on Gut Check, like, use some of those guys, man. Bring them in for, a couple of bit, like, and if you don't want to, if you think you might use them later, put them under a mask or something, right? There's ways to do it,
Yeah, there's definitely ways to do it and be creative. So,
so good.
I was gonna say, I think that's it, unless you had.
Yeah, man. I just wanted to say, everybody, we were kind of in a little bit of a rush today, so we didn't get a chance to get to your questions and comments, but we're going to get back to getting to your questions and comments. So go ahead and drop them down below. You can make sure follow me on Twitter at TW Talking About. Follow BQ. You guys are probably already following BQ because you're here. If you can catch me this week on the Duke Loves Wrestling podcast. That's Duke Loves Wrestling with an R. You can catch me on that podcast. Definitely going out repping for the Impact Lounge, bringing this Impact conversation to other people, other audiences, and definitely trying to bring people back here to be in this conversation with us. So make sure you tweet at Impact Wrestling. Tell them that you love this show because they need to know. Okay, they need to know that we're over here spitting that real, giving y'all the real talk. Okay, y'all they need to know that this is where you love to come and get your Impact analysis. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, BQ, if you don't got nothing else, tell the people, peace out.
That'll do it for us this week. Check with us again next week for another episode of The Cool Factor. For TW, I'm BQ. We are out. Peace.